What's up, guys? This is Chris Calder, and I'm reviewing a bunch of different MIDI pad controllers. As you can see right now, we have the Akai MPD18 on the far left, the Akai MPD26 right next to it, with a pad upgrade and Maschine next to it by Native Instruments, and the Akai MPK Mini on the far right, and not seen in the picture right now but will be, is the Korg PadKontrol, the white version, the old model. So basically what we're going to do today is we're just going to discuss the features and the pad sensitivity of each of these controllers, because you guys are always looking for information on pad sensitivity upgrades, especially for the Akai stuff, because the pad response is shit. So basically I just wanted to kind of give you guys a side-by-side comparison of all the controllers, and yes, I do own all of them because I'm just nuts and I like to have different pad controllers for different purposes in my studio. Alright, so we're going to start with the MPD18. I really like the MPD18 because it's very simple. It's got, it's really easy to transport if you want to make beats like at the coffee shop or whatever. Now the pads suck right out of the box, but it's also one of the easiest pad controllers to modify the sensitivity of. And I posted a video, it was actually the first one on YouTube, about how to improve the sensitivity of the Akai controllers. On the video I used the MPD32, but the MPD18 is definitely the easiest to modify. There's only like a few screws on the bottom. You open it up, you do about 3 or 4 layers of black electrical tape. I found that the magic number is usually about 3 per square on the pad sheet. So that one's definitely the easiest one to upgrade. For $100, it's probably the best controller you can buy on the market for the price. Features are a little bit limited, but if you're just looking for the 16 pads, you can't go wrong. Super easy to modify, cheap. Right out of the box, I'm going to give the MPD18 3 stars for pad sensitivity. So it's not horrible, but it's not great either. Features, I'm going to give it like a 2 out of 5 because there's really nothing to it. The no repeat's kind of a pain in the ass to get working. It works if you're using the internal clock, but then you can't sync it in your software through MIDI. So it's kind of a pain in the ass to set up with the MIDI clock. I've had problems with certain software like Reaper getting it to work really well. But, it's got the full level button, 16 different presets, which I never really use, and the 3 different banks. And then you got the, little slider, which is MIDI controllable. Ease of use is the 3rd rating. I'm going to give it a 5 because you just plug it in. Programmability is going to be the 4th category. And I'm going to give it probably a 5. The software that it comes with, the MPD18 editor software, is pretty intuitive. It's right there. It's spelled out for you. It's easy to save the banks, and upload them. And the size is great too. It's heavy. It's actually pretty heavy for its size, but it's great. It's just super portable. It's like the easiest thing, takes up the least amount of room on your desk. Okay, so that's the MPD18. Now we're going to move on to the MPD26. Now the MPD26 is the latest Akai MPD model. The first one was the MPD16, I believe, which nobody bought because it was ugly too. Then they came out with the MPD24, which is pretty good. It's just like the MPD26, just a little bit different. And then they came out with the MPD32, which is, their flagship, like MPD, whatever. And now we have the MPD26. Now, right out of the box, we're going to talk about the pad sensitivity. Just like the MPD18, just like the 24, it's just like the 32. It's basically shit. So we're going to give the pad sensitivity a 3. I should really give it a 1, but it's okay. As you can see in this model, there's black pads, and I got these black pads from MPCstuff.com, and this is the thick fat pads upgrade. And what the thick fat pads upgrade is it raises it, like a little bit, so you just get more, more pad. It looks cooler. And also they have the adhesive corks, so you can get more sensitivity out of them. Plus you get the aesthetics and the color that you want. I actually got this one used on eBay. I got a great deal. And actually a guy on YouTube was making some beat making videos with it, and it's definitely it's a cool piece. I'm really glad that I got it. Transport controls, tap tempo. It's got note repeat, of course. It's got the 6 assignable MIDI sliders. It's got the 6 assignable MIDI knobs. 4 banks. You got A, B, C, and D. Pretty easy to program. You don't need the editing software to do the stuff, but it definitely saves a lot of time. But you can also edit right there on the LCD screen. Now, that's something you can't do on the MPD18 because there's no screen. So you can edit the MPD26, you could set the MIDI notes, you could do whatever you want, you could set the MIDI channel right on the unit itself without going into the software. But if you go into the software, it's definitely easier to use, easier to program. Ease of use, we're going to give it maybe like a 4. It's not as easy to use as the MPD18. Programmability, definitely a 5, because you could do it, on the unit itself, or you can use the editing software that it comes with. Features, definitely gets a 5 out of 5. I mean, like, you got everything you need. You got your sliders, you got your rotary knobs, which, spin continuously. They don't stop, and they're not notched or anything. So they spin forever. It's great to just, set levels of whatever. If you got to, tweak a sample start and end point, in your software or whatever you want to do. Very cool. So, and also another thing I like about the MPD26 is when you hit the pad, you can see the MIDI note velocity right in the window, which is really helpful because you can tell how well the pad sensitivity upgrade is actually working. So, it's really good. So overall, I think the MPD26 is a great buy, but you have to upgrade the pads. Whether you do the black electrical tape mod, which costs nothing, or whether you do the upgrades from MPCstuff.com, do it. Some people can live without it. I can't. It's just I need that light touch, and if I want to get some really soft kind of like hi-hats and really like a lot of dynamics, that's the way to go. Next, we're going to talk about Maschine. Maschine is very versatile. It's kind of like an MPC, like the software version of an MPC. So I'm not going to talk about, whether Maschine is better than an MPC or an MPC is better than Maschine, because you know what? Whatever you like to use, that's cool with me. If you find that you like the MPC workflow better than computer workflow, that's fine. I think the opposite. I think the MPC workflow is a pain in the ass. I've owned a 1000 before and an MPC 500, and I hated it, and even with the JJ operating system. So anyway, but I really dig Maschine. It's really easy to set sample start and end points. It's just overall great. But we're not going to talk about the Maschine software so much. We're just going to talk about the controller. The pads are pretty sensitive. They feel pretty good. They're not too hard, not too soft. I can get a decent MIDI sensitivity with the lightest touch. I don't know exactly. I think it's maybe MIDI velocity 20 or something. I forget. Anyways, I get a pretty good overall response. You could bang it and get some really good MIDI velocity, or you can touch it light and you'll be able to hear it and it'll trigger the sound. For pad sensitivity, I'm going to give it a 5 because it's definitely probably the best controller right out of the box as far as sensitivity goes. I would even say it might be better than the pad control. It's really close. For features, definitely 5. Everything you can do with the software, with the effects, with the library, it's so easy to make patterns and just, you got all your groups and you could do anything you want. Programmability, definitely a 5. It's extremely versatile. Ease of use, it's pretty easy to use, but there is kind of a learning curve. So you just got to kind of get used to it, read the manuals, read forums, watch YouTube videos. That's kind of what I did to learn how to use Maschine, because I don't usually like to read the manual so much. I like to, watch somebody doing something hands-on. It's just better, faster, more fun. So anyway, so Maschine is great, and I think it's one of the best controllers out there. It's a little pricey, sure, but you get the software built in, you get the library. It's great. It's still less than an MPC, Now, the Akai MPK Mini, the pads right out of the box, as typical with Akai, they suck. I used to think that they were okay, like when I first got it, but when I did the upgrade, it was just a million times better. You got 2 banks of 8 pads, so basically you got 16 pads total. You got 4 presets. They're called programs on the MPK Mini. And then you got 8 assignable MIDI knobs, 2-octave keyboard, super portable. It's basically the same size as the MPD18. It's just more wide, obviously. Anyways, we're going to break down the features. Pad sensitivity, definitely going to give it a 3. Not great, not good. Features, I'm going to give it a 5 because there's a lot of cool stuff you could do with it. It's got a sustain button, so it kind of works as a sustain pedal. It's got the octave up and down. It's got tap tempo. It's got the arpeggiator on and off. Use the built-in software. You can save your banks. Really easy to program it. Programmability, same thing. Like I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. You could do a lot with it. It's a little bit limited, but at the same time, it's probably one of the best controllers for the money right now. Ease of use, I'm going to give it I'm going to give it maybe like a 4. It's not terribly easy to use, especially if you want to sync the arpeggiator. It's kind of a pain in the butt. Same thing with the note repeat on the MPD series. So overall, I think the Akai MPK Mini is a great deal. If you combine that with the MPD18, you could throw them both in your backpack plus your laptop, and you got everything. You got your keyboard, you got your pads, you tweak everything with your knobs, you're good to go. So now we're going to talk about the Korg pad control. This is the old version. Now they make it in black, which is pretty cool looking. So we're going to talk about the pad sensitivity. I definitely give it a 5. All right, now the pad control, I used to think that the pads on the pad control were the absolute best and super duper sensitive, but I think Maschine kind of has it beat a little bit. Features, I definitely think the pad control can be a little bit limited, so I'm going to give features probably a 3 out of 5, because although, you know, you can see a lot of cool stuff right here. You got the XY pad, which you can mess with pitch, you know, drag your finger and you can do pitch and like cut off and reso, whatever you want to do. That's great, but they only have 2 assignable MIDI knobs up top, and most people, they want more knobs to tweak. So 2 isn't really enough. So I find that really limiting. And, you know, the pad control's got the roll function and the flam function and the hold function, and that's all well and good, and that's great. It's got full level, just like the MPD stuff. You know, so you get like a maximum 127 MIDI velocity. But, yeah, I just find it limited because they need to come out with like something like a pad control 2.0 and, you know, same layout basically, but maybe at the top instead of like, you know, the LED display and like the, you know, the way it's designed, they could probably fit 8 knobs along the top, like assignable. That would be awesome. You know, like Korg, I know they make a ton of stuff, but, you know, it's just something they should really think about because they have to compete with, you know, the Akai MPDs and Maschine, and they're losing like constantly. That's why the Korg pad control dropped in price by $30. So yeah, features, I'm definitely going to give it like a 3. Programmability, it's very programmable. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the videos by Perpetual Productions on YouTube. He's got those cheap and really powerful tweaking programs that you can get like the most out of your MIDI controller. So definitely the pad control is pretty awesome for that. It's very programmable. But in general, it's, you know, it's pretty easy to use. The editor sucks. Like I haven't used it forever. I think it was called Enigma. I just program whatever I need the pad control to do right on the unit itself. It's very easy. You just hit, you know, whatever you want to change, like MIDI channel or like note number. And it's just super easy. You just kind of hit the pad, you turn the knob. Over here you can see the Ableton sticker on the knob there. But you can just tweak the crap out of it. You know, dial in scales. It's really easy to dial in scales. You hit a pad, you know, say you want like a major scale on like the bottom row, you just hit the pad, hit the first pad, turn the thing to C1 or whatever, and then hit the second pad next to it, turn it to D1, then E1, F1, you know what I'm saying? And you can get like a major scale or like a minor scale. So it's really easy to use. So programmability, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 probably. Ease of use, it can be a kind of a pain in the ass. I'm going to give it like a 3 because, you know, you got the way the MIDI ports are designed and the USB thing, it's like MIDI port A, MIDI port B, and then pad control, you know, whatever. So it's confusing. It's like, which one do I use to trigger my software? You know, so it's kind of a pain. You know, it's a little bit of a mystery when you look at it. You're like, what the hell does all this do? So definitely ease of use. I'm going to give it about a 3 out of 5. You know, pad sensitivity, again, 5 out of 5 right out of the box. So overall, I think it's a really good choice. The pads are great, especially if you have software like, say, TuneTrack Superior Drummer 2.0. Great dynamics, you know, with hi-hats and toms and snare hits. It's really dynamic. And if you guys have ever seen videos by David Fingers Haynes on YouTube, I mean, he can really rock that shit. And I can't remember if he's using a pad controller or something else or just whatever, trigger finger. I don't know. But in any case, you know, it's definitely good for like tapping in drum beats, especially acoustic stuff. Okay, so overall, I think the MPD26 is probably the best bet because you get the pad sensitivity upgrade and it has the absolute best pad sensitivity. A minimum MIDI velocity of like 5 or 6, which is crazy. Most of the time I can get a 6. I can't get as low as a 5. But that's huge. That is huge. Definitely better than the Maschine and the Pad Control, which are the best pad controllers out of the box as far as pad sensitivity goes. But, you know, even though I'm not a huge Akai fan, because I think overall their stuff is kind of overpriced, and, you know, the pad sensitivity issues on everything they make, MPD, MPC, MPK, it's shit, as we all know. So that aside, if you get the PadKorks upgrade from MPCstuff.com, definitely the best value, I think. So you can do the thing with the MPD18 and get the PadKorks, you know, for like an extra like $15 or whatever. So that's a great pad controller for $115. Or you can get the thick fat pads on the MPD18, and that's about $150. Still less than the pad control, still less than the MPD26. But I definitely think that's the best value. So I'm going to say that the winner is the MPD26. You know, definitely with the pad upgrade. Do not get these MIDI controllers unless you get the pad upgrades, or unless you want to do the electrical tape mod, because you're going to be frustrated and it's going to annoy the shit out of you. So if you go with Akai, be prepared to spend the extra money. Speaking of pad upgrades, I was on eBay and I bought the $3 pad sensitivity kit, basically the polypropylene foam guy. He was cool. He was very professional. I bought a kit and I was completely dissatisfied with it. So basically, you don't want to go with his kit. I know it's only $3 and it's like free shipping or whatever, but the problems I had after I cut the squares out perfectly, mind you, it was like, you know, had a little template, you know, cut out one square and matched all the other squares. I did the sensitivity upgrade with my MPD18, and when it was great until I put the front faceplate back on. And it was all sorts of like double triggering, ghost triggering, and it was just a mess. And I would just kind of tightly, you know, kind of hold the top faceplate with like the rest of the unit, and it would just go, and it would just trigger like everything at once. It didn't do this if the front faceplate was on. So I found that really interesting. I had a feeling it had something to do with maybe static electricity or like a static discharge. I don't know. I found that really bizarre, because if I didn't have the front faceplate attached to the unit, his polypropylene foam upgrade was really good. And as soon as I attached that front faceplate, before I even screwed it back on, just like as soon as I put it back on so it looked like normal, I had all sorts of like ghost triggering and craziness. So I definitely do not recommend his upgrade. The other guy on eBay, his kits are like $14, I think. He's got the little, it looks like bicycle tube tires. You know, it's all pre-cut into squares that fit. He's got the MPK and the MPD. I don't know much about those, but according to one YouTube video reviewer, it was pretty good. So maybe that's worth looking into. It's basically the same price as the MPC stuff PadKorks upgrade. But the one thing that people don't like about the PadKorks is that they kind of make the pads a little more stiff, as you've seen in videos. Now, that's cool and everything. That doesn't really bother me, because most of the pads, well, except for the MPC, they are stiff, and, you know, you just get used to it. But sensitivity is more important than, you know, like a stiff pad, in my opinion. Definitely the MPC stuff is very pro. You know, these guys know what they're doing. They have a great site. And yeah, or you could just do the black electrical tape mod, which people do. It's free, basically. I mean, I think a roll of tape is like $1. It can be a pain in the ass to do. And I will say this also about the electrical tape upgrade. The MPK Mini was definitely the hardest to upgrade. So if you guys, you know, it's just a heads up, if you guys want to do the electrical tape with the MPK Mini, you know, it's going to take you forever, and it's going to, you know, you're just going to go insane from like cutting the strips and like really thin strips, and it's going to stick to your scissors and everything or whatever if you use an X-Acto knife. Just a pain in the ass. So that's just a heads up on that. But it definitely does make a difference. I think I used either 2 pieces of tape per pad, actually like 2 on the left side, 2 on the right side of each pad. And I think that was the magic number for those, because anything else would be like too sensitive. I'm glad I did the upgrade with the MPK Mini, but the problem I had is when I connected it back up and screwed it back in, and it was a pain to keep that pad sheet from like shifting and stuff, because you got to hold it upside down. the USB cable now is a little bit loose. So it's like if I bump it, like, you know, the MIDI controller just turns off, like it just, you know, it just disconnects the USB. And then when it turns back on a second later, the software doesn't recognize it, of course. I got to restart the software. So that's a big issue, you know, with that. So that, you know, the MPK Mini, definitely a good value, but a bitch to upgrade the pads. So that's pretty much it. I know I babbled way too long about this, about all these pads, but I wanted to give you guys a thorough explanation of and review of just each of the pad controllers, because everybody is just wondering about the same stuff on the market right now. The MPD series, the MPK series, you know, machine, pad control. It's like, which one's the best? Again, I think the winner is the MPD26 with the MPC stuff, thick fat pads plus the Korg upgrade. Definitely awesome. Okay, thank you all for watching. If you find this video helpful, I appreciate you guys spreading the word on the video, linking to it, whatever you want to do. But again, this is Chris Calder, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.